Without question, one of the biggest releases this year is the upcoming Pokemon game. They're called Sword and Shield this time. Me personally, I'm gonna hold out for Pokemon Gun. Game comes out on November 15th, 2019 for Nintendo Switch, so not that far off. And there's obviously a lot of excitement surrounding this game. The graphics have been bolstered quite a bit, it's a whole new region, there's new Pokemon to discover, but not all the buzz surrounding this title has been positive. There's actually been a bit of controversy and some backlash in regards to some of the game's content and certain exclusions that has upset a significant portion of the fan base. While Pokemon Sword and Shield seems to take a step forward in most areas, there's one important aspect where it actually does take a step back. The following information comes from E3 2019, more specifically from Nintendo's Treehouse Live event, which they do every year at E3. It's this live stream where they bring in a bunch of developers working on games. They show off gameplay while developers answer some questions, and there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of interesting insight. And Masuda, the producer of Pokemon Sword and Shield, came on during that game segment, and he confirmed some unfortunate news for hardcore fans. What he basically said was that not all Pokemon will be returning to this latest entry, or perhaps a more accurate way to put it would be that the Galar region Pokedex will not encompass all of the 800 plus Pokemon, which means that players who have been transferring their Pokemon from one game to another since however many years ago, they're not going to be able to do that anymore for all of their captured Pokemon. So here's exactly how Masuda explained it. This is footage from that Treehouse Live event.
Yeah, there's one thing I'd like to talk about, and it's about the Pokemon Home service that we recently announced. So it will connect with the Pokemon RPGs as well as Pokemon Go to allow players to really gather all of their Pokemon in a single location. And of course it will also work with the Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield game. But there is one important change from the previous Pokemon Bank service that I want to tell all of its users about. So in previous games that worked with the Pokemon Bank service, you were able to, for example in Sun and Moon, bring over any Pokemon even if they weren't in the Alola Pokedex. But with the transition to the Nintendo Switch hardware, with its, it being much more powerful, allowing us to be much more expressive with each of the individual Pokemon. And now we're well over 800 Pokemon species in the games. And at Game Freak, we really spent a lot of time thinking about what the best way to move forward was, really preserving the quality of all the different Pokemon, while also, taking into account the battle balance, having so many different Pokemon available, all within, a limited development time, so we don't keep fans waiting too long for every new entry in the series. And after a lot of discussion, we decided to come to kind of a new direction. And so what that means for Pokemon Sword and Shield is that players will be able to transfer their Pokemon from Pokemon Home only if they appear in the Galar region Pokedex. So we were very careful. We spent a lot of time really thinking what the best selection of Pokemon to match the setting of the adventure would be. So I'll talk more about the details in future opportunities such as media interviews, but I wanted to let you know today. And I know there are a lot of users of the Pokemon Bank service who are looking forward to Pokemon Home, so I wanted to let them know what the change would be well in advance.
So yeah, there you have it, folks. Now, a bit of clarification. You can't catch every single Pokemon in a respective game, but every Pokemon usually is coded into the game so that if you do have a game where you can catch a Pokemon that's not in this game, you can catch it here, take it to the Pokemon Bank, and just import it one way or another. That's been a feature since like 3rd gen. It's been one of the core sort of pillars of Pokemon to be able to continue your Pokemon's journey gen after gen after gen. This option to import any Pokemon from any game into the latest entry and that constant expansion drew a lot of fans to the series, and it's also what allowed players to complete the Pokedex in every game, to catch them all, which is a big aspect of the whole series. So whereas before the Pokemon were coded into every game, even if you couldn't catch them all in one game, now some Pokemon will just not be in the game. They're not going to be coded in there, so you cannot import them. So there will be certain Pokemon that cannot be used for Sword and Shield, which is a first for the series, and suffice to say that Pokemon fans and enthusiasts are not happy at all about this change. If you go to YouTube right now, for example, you can see that the video currently has 20,000 likes versus 80,000 dislikes, so that disparity is pretty huge. And if you go to social media and forums, it isn't hard to find fans expressing their disappointment. Now, I will admit that me personally, as someone who isn't this huge Pokemon fan, as someone who's more of a casual fan who doesn't play every single game, who hasn't collected every single Pokemon, and isn't into like transferring Pokemon from one game to another. I'm not like super upset about this. With every Pokemon game, I start fresh, and there's probably a lot of casual fans out there who are like that. So for these people, this news probably won't be the biggest deal in the world. However, looking at it from the perspective of hardcore fans who have followed every entry in the series, who've kept up with everything, yeah, I can definitely see where they're coming from. These are people who have been collecting Pokemon since the inception of the series, who have been refining each Pokemon stats, especially competitive players. They've signed up for services like Pokemon Bank so that all their favorite Pokemon kind of carry over from game to game. Nintendo's even got this new service called Pokemon Home, which is a cloud-based service where players can store and transfer Pokemon. Nintendo itself is really emphasizing this idea of carry your Pokemon wherever you go. Transferability of Pokemon has been a huge deal for the series for so many years now. This idea of collecting them all, having them all, bolstering them all, and bringing them all on your journey here and beyond, it's a core pillar, a core tenet of the series. But with this latest game, that cycle's been broken. The Pokedex is now officially incomplete. There are limitations to some of the Pokemons that you can transfer. You literally cannot collect them all. Some Pokemon don't come with you in this new journey for technical reasons. A lot of fans feel like this isn't just some minor thing that's being scaled back, but rather a core piece of the Pokemon experience that's been stripped away. Now, as backlash and protest and contention continued to mount, the Pokemon Company eventually caught wind of this, and they decided to issue a statement by posting a link on Twitter. Clicking on the link will lead you to this website, which features the following statement in regards to upset fans as well as the incomplete Pokédex fiasco. Thank you to all of our fans for caring so deeply about Pokemon. Recently, I shared the news that some Pokemon cannot be transferred to Pokemon Sword and Shield. I've read all your comments and appreciate your love and passion for Pokemon. Just like all of you, we are passionate about Pokemon, and each and every one of them is important to us. After so many years of developing the Pokemon video games, this was a very difficult decision for me. I'd like to make one thing clear: even if a specific Pokemon is not available in Pokemon Sword and Shield, that does not mean it will not appear in future games. The world of Pokemon continues to evolve. The Galar region offers new Pokemon to encounter, trainers to battle, and adventures to embark on. We are pouring our hearts into these games, and we hope you'll look forward to joining us on the new journey. June 28th, 2019, Junichi Masuda. So basically, Masuda acknowledged that he has heard fans' concerns. He understands that fans are upset, but also reaffirmed that nothing will change for this entry. He did highlight the point that just because a Pokemon is not available in Sword and Shield doesn't mean we might not see them in future games. He essentially confirmed that no Pokemon has been permanently cut from the series or anything like that. It's just that they're not in this game specifically. Unfortunately, this message hardly did much in terms of assuaging upset crowds. This may have actually stoked the flames further because it's a whole lot of nothing. Nothing's gonna change about the current circumstances. And a lot of people don't seem too happy about the fact that we might have to wait for a new Pokemon game before the missing Pokemon will be seen again. Now, when he says future games, I'm wondering if he's talking about the next generation of Pokemon titles, or if he's referring to like the third entry of this generation. In this case, it's the game people jokingly refer to as Pokemon Gun. Is that when we might see all these missing Pokemon get added back and become part of the National Pokedex? Regardless of which one of those it is, it still doesn't change the fact that fans might have to buy a new game so that they'll be able to complete their Pokedex. They'll have to wait another year or however long it takes for the next Pokemon entry, and that's just not sitting well with people. Maybe things could have gone better if they would have confirmed that the National Pokedex will be completed through a free update down the line. Also making matters worse is how vague some of the details are surrounding the incomplete National Pokedex. So we don't know how many of these Pokemon won't make it. Is it in the dozens, or is it like 100 or 200? How many are we talking about? Also, which ones specifically won't return? When are we going to see a list? And how many of these are going to be some fan favorites? Regardless of which Pokemon they cut, somebody's bound to love that Pokemon. Just a lot of fans are fearing that some of their personal favorites will be cut from this game, that they won't be able to take that Pokemon from their Pokemon bank and bring it over, whatever it is. And then there are others who have made the case that Nintendo seems like they're rushing Pokemon Sword and Shield development. They're just trying to get it out there. I mean, the developers did say during the Treehouse event that they didn't want fans to wait too long for the next Pokemon. They also cited this technological leap from portable devices to the much more powerful Switch. So they basically had to create high-fidelity models and animations for over 800 Pokemons. And yeah, that is definitely a lot of work. And they said that they wanted to preserve the quality of all Pokemon within a limited development time. That's the term they used. So there are a lot of undertones here suggesting that they had to exclude some Pokemon because they just didn't have time to finish all of them due to, you know, this graphical, technological leap that they're making between the 3DS Pokemon and now the Switch Pokemon. And in response, a lot of fans are saying, why not just delay the game? You don't have to release a Pokemon game every single year. Take your time, don't cut corners, finish this product, and then ship it. You know, make sure that the Pokedex is complete because, again, for a lot of fans, it's so important to have that there. Fans are basically saying they're willing to wait a bit longer if it ultimately means a complete product with a complete Pokemon experience. It doesn't help matters that on top of all of that, it's been confirmed that Z-moves and Mega Evolutions from past entries will not be making it into Pokemon Sword and Shield, further adding to this notion that corners are being cut, that stuff's being excluded, that this game's being rushed rather than being fully fleshed out. I've also seen some fans point out the fact that Pokemon seems to be taking sort of smaller technical steps forward compared to other games. It seems to be falling behind on a technical level. Even with Sword and Shield, while the graphics are a significant upgrade from past entries, by today's standards, in terms of games are seeing on home consoles now, even on Switch, this game does look more primitive and less advanced by comparison. But a lot of fans were okay with these games not being the prettiest or them feeling kind of samey every generation because the ultimate appeal of Pokemon have always been the Pokemon, and that core aspect has always been intact. But now with that compromised a little bit, people are beginning to take note of all of these different ways Pokemon's been falling behind on a technical level. So yeah, it's just been kind of the snowball effect of complaints. And this is a franchise that has grossed like $90 billion over its lifetime. $17 billion of that came from the games alone. So a lot of people are saying that there is no excuse to cut corners on something that's so important to the series, on the Pokemon, on the Pokedex. This gotta catch 'em all pillar of Pokemon is one aspect people feel the series cannot take steps back on. That's where there cannot be any compromises. The one thing I can give Nintendo is that they were very straight up and honest about this. They didn't just hide this news until the last minute, until a week before launch, or let people find out on the day of, which is what a lot of other publishers and developers might do. But the open communication doesn't change the fact that this is still disheartening news for a lot of fans of Pokemon. Again, for me as a more casual player, it is what it is, but it is also my belief that a game franchise should never forget about the fans that propped it up to what it is in the first place. I don't know, I feel like maybe this is a unique case where Nintendo is in a transition period of taking portable Pokemon models, these low-resolution models, and trying to bring them up to HD quality. And that's been a struggle, and that's been a long transition period because all of these 800 plus individual Pokemon with their own unique visual and animations have been stuck in old graphics for so long. So maybe once this transition period ends, once they've established HD templates and animations for all of these different Pokemon, once they're in place, future titles won't have an issue with that because they've got the material there, and it'll be all about creating new Pokemon rather than having to redo and kind of remaster old Pokemon. So that's the hope, but until then, yeah, fans just aren't happy with the situation. This response from Masuda didn't do all that much. People aren't keen on this notion of having to wait until a new game before they can see certain Pokemon that are missing in this one. I suppose only time will tell what will happen henceforth, but the hope is that Nintendo understands the importance of people feeling that sense of continuity from one Pokemon game to another. And a big part of that is ensuring every Pokemon is available, every Pokemon can be moved around, so that fans feel like they've gone from one region to another, faced those challenges, taken those Pokemon, and gone to the next challenge. That continuity is so important. These are one man's thoughts and opinions on the whole situation. I'd love to hear what your take is on Pokemon Sword and Shield not having a full Pokedex and not allowing players to transfer every single Pokemon in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update and discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.